A benevolent genie grants 3 wishes. But his first wish changes everything. John Miller walked home through the rain-soaked streets, his shoulders hunched against the evening chill. Another day at his boring office job had left him feeling empty. Same cubicle, same spreadsheets, same meaningless conversations. At 32, he had expected more from life. He took a different route home tonight, wanting to avoid the crowded Main Street. That's when he noticed it, a small antique shop squeezed between a laundromat and a convenience store. Its faded sign read, "Curiosities from Beyond." John had passed this street hundreds of times but never noticed the shop before. A strange pull drew him toward the dusty display window. Among the old clocks and tarnished jewelry sat a peculiar metal object about the size of a coffee mug. It had an unusual cylindrical shape with strange markings etched into its surface. It didn't look like anything made on Earth. "Just go in and ask about it," John muttered to himself. "What's the worst that could happen?" The shop bell jingled as John entered. The air inside smelled of old books and incense. An elderly man with thick glasses looked up from behind the counter. "Can I help you, young man?" the shopkeeper asked, his voice surprisingly strong for someone his age. "That metal thing in the window," John pointed. "What is it?" The old man's eyes lit up. "Ah, you have a good eye. That came in last week. Previous owner claimed it fell from the sky." He chuckled. "Probably just space junk or military debris. Worthless, really, but interesting to look at." The shopkeeper retrieved the object and placed it on the counter. Up close, John could see the markings were unlike any language he recognized. The metal felt unusually warm to the touch. "How much?" John asked, surprising himself. $20 and it's yours," the man replied. "Been trying to sell it all week." John handed over the money without hesitation. The shopkeeper wrapped the object in brown paper and smiled knowingly as he handed it over. "Some things choose their owners, young man," he said cryptically. "Take good care of it." John nodded, tucking the package under his arm. As he turned to leave, he could have sworn the old man whispered, "And be careful what you wish for." Back in his small apartment, John placed the strange object on his kitchen table. Under the better lighting, he could see it was made of a silvery metal with faint blue undertones. The markings seemed to shift slightly when he wasn't looking directly at them. "What are you?" he wondered aloud, running his fingers along the smooth surface. John grabbed a cloth and some metal polish from under the sink. As he began to clean the object, he noticed a circular pattern on one end. His thumb pressed against it instinctively. The object suddenly grew hot in his hands. John dropped it onto the table with a clatter as it began to vibrate. A seam appeared down its side, a seam that hadn't been there before. With a hiss of released pressure, the object split open. A brilliant blue light erupted from within, filling the small apartment. John stumbled backward, knocking over a chair as the light coalesced into a humanoid shape. The light faded, revealing a woman floating a few inches above his kitchen table. At least, she looked like a woman, the most beautiful woman John had ever seen. Her skin had a slight blue luminescence, and her hair flowed around her head as if underwater. Her eyes were deep violet and lacked pupils. She wore something that resembled a sleek bodysuit made of a material that shifted colors like oil on water. "Greetings, Master," she said, her voice musical and slightly electronic. "I am Zara, Fulfillment Specialist, 7th class, at your service." John stared open-mouthed, too shocked to speak. The woman, Zara, tilted her head. "Your biological readings indicate extreme surprise. Please be assured I mean no harm. I am here to fulfill the standard contract, 3 wishes, as per the agreement between our civilizations." "Wishes?" John finally managed to stammer. "Like a genie? Are you a genie?" Zara smiled patiently. "Your species would use that term, yes. Though I am not magical, I am technological. My people visit many worlds, offering our services as part of our cultural exchange program. John's mind raced. But genies aren't real. This must be a prank, or I'm hallucinating, or... I assure you, I am quite real, Zara interrupted. She gestured toward his coffee mug on the counter, which rose into the air and floated to him. My device allows me to manipulate matter and energy in ways your science cannot yet explain. Hence, magic, as you might call it. John took the mug with trembling hands. So, 3 wishes. Anything I want. There are limitations, Zara explained, settling into a cross-legged position, still floating above the table. I cannot alter the fundamental nature of your universe. I cannot bring the dead back to life. I cannot force love. I cannot grant more wishes. And I cannot interfere with other fulfillment specialists' contracts. But anything else is fair game? John asked, beginning to process the situation. Essentially, yes. Zara nodded. Most humans request wealth, power, or pleasure. Occasionally world peace, though that tends to be problematic in execution. John sat down, his mind swirling with possibilities. Unlimited wealth. Perfect health. Worldwide fame. He could have anything. Take your time, Zara said. You have 24 hours to make your first wish, after which I will return to my dormant state until summoned again for your second wish. John looked up at her, studying her face. Despite her alien appearance, he could read expressions in her features. She seemed bored. No, resigned. As if she'd done this countless times and knew exactly how it would play out. How long have you been doing this? He asked. Zara's expression changed slightly, surprise, perhaps. I have been a fulfillment specialist for approximately 3,000 of your Earth years. But that is irrelevant to our transaction. And humans always wish for the same things. With minor variations, she confirmed. Wealth. Power. Revenge. Immortality. Predictable patterns across all developing species, actually. Something in her tone made John pause. There was a weariness there, a subtle disappointment in humanity that made him want to prove her wrong. I've made my decision, John said suddenly. I'm ready for my first wish. Zara straightened, her hands moving in complex patterns as blue energy began to swirl around her fingers. Very well. State your wish clearly, and I will fulfill it to the best of my abilities. John took a deep breath. I wish to understand. Zara's hands froze mid-gesture. Understand what, exactly? You. Your language. Your technology. How your civilization works. I want to understand what makes you possible. The energy around Zara's hands flickered and died. For the first time, she looked genuinely surprised. You. Wish for knowledge. Not wealth or power or physical pleasure. Her voice had lost its professional tone. John nodded firmly. That's my wish. Zara slowly descended until her feet touched the floor of John's apartment. She stepped closer to him, studying his face with those strange violet eyes. In thousands of years serving humans, she said quietly, I've never heard such a request. Her head tilted as she considered him. Are you sure this is what you want? Knowledge can be a burden as much as a gift. John met her gaze without flinching. I'm sure. Zara's expression changed then, the professional mask fell away completely, replaced by something that looked almost like hope. Very well, she whispered. Then let us begin. Knowledge transfer is not a simple process, Zara explained, her voice softer than before. Your brain is not designed to process information as mine does. John sat down on his couch, never taking his eyes off her. But it's possible, right? Zara nodded slowly. Yes. I can modify the information to be compatible with your neural structure. But it will be intense. And once given, it cannot be taken back. I understand. I'm ready. Zara approached him, her movements graceful and fluid. Close your eyes, she instructed. John obeyed. He felt her cool fingers touch his temples. Open your mind to me, she whispered. At first, nothing happened. Then a warmth began to spread from her fingertips into his skull. The warmth became heat, and the heat became fire. John gasped as images, sounds, and concepts flooded his consciousness. He saw a planet with 3 moons orbiting a blue-white star. He saw cities that floated above crystal oceans. He saw beings similar to Zara, but with countless variations, some with feathered hair, others with skin that shimmered like mother of pearl. Languages poured into his mind, not just words and grammar, but entire cultural contexts and histories. Mathematics beyond anything humans had discovered flowed through his thoughts. Physics theories that made Einstein's work seem like a child's drawing. Biology that treated DNA like primitive computer code. Through it all, John glimpsed Zara's world, Asteria, they called it. A civilization millions of years older than Earth's. A species that had conquered mortality, disease, and even space itself. A culture dedicated to knowledge and exploration. John saw how they had discovered other developing worlds and created the Fulfillment Specialist program as a way to study emerging species without interfering too directly. The wishes were a test, a way to understand what different beings valued most. The information flow slowed and finally stopped. John opened his eyes, gasping. His apartment looked different now. The same walls and furniture surrounded him, but he saw them with new understanding. The light bulbs overhead, primitive energy conversion. The smartphone on his table, laughably simple data processing. Even the air he breathed seemed different, each molecule now understood as a specific arrangement of atoms and forces. How do you feel? Zara asked, watching him carefully. John looked at his hands, turning them over. Like I've been blind my whole life and can suddenly see. He looked up at her. Thank you. Zara stepped back, her expression puzzled. You're not in pain. Most species experience significant discomfort during their first knowledge expansion. John shook his head. It's overwhelming, but not painful. More like, exhilarating. He stood up, pacing the small apartment. I understand so much now. Your ship, the one you travel in, it uses dimensional folding to cross vast distances. Your body isn't actually physical in our sense of the word, it's an energy projection from your true form, which exists partly in another dimension. Zara's eyes widened slightly. You processed more than I expected. Most humans only retain basic concepts. John stopped pacing. Why me? Why did the shop owner have your container? How did it end up on Earth? My previous. Zara hesitated. Client was unsatisfied with the outcome of his wishes. He tried to destroy my vessel. When that failed, he sold it to a collector, who eventually sold it to the shop owner. What happened to the previous client? John asked. He wished for unlimited wealth. I granted it. He did not specify he wanted to keep it secret. The sudden appearance of his fortune attracted attention. Unpleasant attention. Zara's expression darkened. His second wish was for the power to defeat his enemies. I granted that too. His third wish was for immortality. I granted it. That doesn't sound so bad, John said. He now lives forever in a maximum security prison, powerful enough to survive any torture his enemies devise, but never powerful enough to escape. Zara's voice was flat. Wishes must be precise. John sat back down, processing this. And you've been doing this for thousands of years? Granting wishes to beings who almost always misuse them? It is my function, Zara replied, but something in her tone had changed. She sounded less certain. What about you? John asked. Do you have wishes? Dreams? Things you want beyond your function? Zara stared at him, genuine surprise on her face. That question is not relevant to our transaction. It's relevant to me, John insisted. The knowledge you gave me, I can see now that you're not just some program or tool. You're a conscious being with your own thoughts and feelings. Zara turned away, looking out the window at the night sky. My kind transcended biological limitations eons ago. We transferred our consciousness into energy matrices that could exist indefinitely. The Fulfillment Specialist program was created as a cultural exchange, yes, but also as penance. Penance? For what? In our early development, we were not unlike humans, curious, ambitious, sometimes ruthless. We advanced rapidly but caused great harm to other species we encountered. She turned back to face him. The Wish program was designed to help developing species without interfering directly with their evolution. To guide without controlling. John considered this. But it doesn't seem to work very well if everyone just wishes for power and wealth. No, Zara admitted. It doesn't. Is that why you were so surprised by my wish? Because no one has ever wished for understanding before. Zara nodded slowly. In 3,247 years of service, across 942 different clients on 38 worlds, you are the first to wish simply for knowledge. John smiled slightly. I guess I'm special then. Perhaps, Zara said, studying him with new interest. Or perhaps you understand something that other beings do not. Which is? That knowledge is the only true power. Wealth fades. Physical strength diminishes. Even entire civilizations rise and fall. But knowledge, once gained, transforms the knower forever. John stood up and walked to his small kitchen. Everything looked different now. He understood the chemical processes happening inside his refrigerator, the electromagnetic fields in his microwave, even the complex carbon structures in the wooden table. My whole life, he said quietly, I've felt like I was missing something. Like there were patterns I could almost see, connections just beyond my grasp. He turned back to Zara. Other kids wanted to be rich or famous or powerful. I just wanted to understand how things worked. For the first time, Zara smiled, a genuine expression, not the professional one she had worn earlier. That explains much about you, John Miller. You know my full name. I know more about you than you might expect. When my vessel chooses a new client, it scans them completely. She tilted her head. I know you were abandoned by your father at age 7. I know your mother worked 3 jobs to support you. I know you scored exceptionally high on aptitude tests but couldn't afford university. John nodded slowly. So your vessel didn't end up with me by accident. There are no accidents in the universe, John. Only patterns we haven't recognized yet. John took a deep breath, his mind racing with the new knowledge Zara had given him. Equations, formulas, and theories danced in his thoughts. With what he now understood, he could revolutionize Earth's technology overnight. He could solve energy crises, cure diseases, transform transportation. With what I now understand, he said slowly, I know exactly what my second wish should be. Zara's expression changed instantly. The smile vanished, replaced by concern. John, wait. There's something you need to know first. What is it? This knowledge you now possess, it comes with responsibility. Your species isn't ready for most of the technology you now understand. I know, John said. That's why my next wish is so important. Zara looked at him, her violet eyes troubled. You don't realize what you're asking for. John met her gaze steadily. Actually, I think for the first time in my life, I know exactly what I'm asking for. Zara paced the small apartment, her luminescent form casting blue shadows on the walls. John, please reconsider. Your species isn't ready for advanced technology. I've seen this scenario play out dozens of times on other worlds. John sat at his kitchen table, sketching equations and diagrams on a notepad. The knowledge Zara had given him was still organizing itself in his mind, brilliant connections forming between concepts. "I'm not going to wish for a weapon or unlimited power," John assured her. "I understand the risks." "Do you?" Zara stopped pacing to look at him. The last being who tried to uplift their civilization caused a war that destroyed their entire planet. They weren't ready for the responsibility. John set down his pen. "Tell me what happened." Zara sighed, a strangely human gesture for an energy being. "It was a planet called Marone, orbiting what you call Tau Ceti. Their civilization was similar to Earth's current state, digital technology, beginning space exploration. One of their scientists found my vessel. And wished for advanced knowledge, like I did." "Yes," Zara said quietly. "Their first wish was for understanding. Their second was for the ability to implement that knowledge immediately. I warned them, but they insisted." "What went wrong?" "Everything." Zara's form dimmed slightly. "They created technology that could manipulate matter at the atomic level. Their leaders immediately weaponized it. Nations fought for control. Within 1 year, their atmosphere was contaminated with self-replicating nanomachines. Nothing survived." John was silent for a long moment. "And you blame yourself for this?" "I granted the wish." Zara's voice was heavy. "It is my function." John stood up and approached her. "What if there was a way to help humanity without causing chaos? What if we could introduce new technology gradually, starting with things that would benefit everyone?" Zara looked skeptical. "Humans fight over resources as much as any species. The moment you introduce technology that threatens existing power structures, those with power will try to control or destroy it. Then we don't threaten them, at least not at first." John's eyes were bright with excitement. "We start with solutions to problems everyone agrees on: clean energy, medical treatments, more efficient food production. You believe human leaders will accept these advancements without trying to monopolize them?" "No," John admitted. "But I have a plan for that too." He took a deep breath. "Zara, I'm ready for my second wish." Zara hesitated, then nodded. Blue energy began to swirl around her hands. "State your wish clearly." "I wish for the ability to implement the knowledge you've given me in a way that will benefit humanity without causing chaos or destruction. I wish for the means to introduce advanced technology gradually and safely to the world." Zara's energy flickered as she processed his wish. "This is unusually specific. Is it possible?" After a long moment, Zara nodded. "Yes. But it will require modifications to your physical form and additional knowledge constraints. Are you prepared for this?" "Yes." Zara reached out, placing her glowing hands on either side of John's head. "Then let it be done." This time, the transfer was different. Instead of information flooding into his mind, John felt changes within his body. His muscles tingled. His skin grew warm. Behind his eyes, a subtle pressure built and receded. When Zara removed her hands, John felt different. Stronger, more alert. His thoughts were clearer, more focused. "What did you do to me?" he asked. "I've enhanced your natural abilities," Zara explained. "Improved memory retention. Accelerated healing. Extended lifespan. Your body can now withstand the stress of your accelerated mental processes. And the knowledge constraints? I've structured the technological information in your mind to prevent you from creating anything that could be immediately weaponized. You will discover how to build more dangerous technologies only after humanity has demonstrated it can handle the previous advancements responsibly." John flexed his fingers, marveling at how different he felt. "So I can't build a matter converter tomorrow?" "No," Zara said with a small smile. "But you can build better solar cells, more efficient batteries, and medical diagnostic tools beyond anything currently available." "That's more than enough to start with," John said. The next 6 months passed in a whirlwind of activity. John quit his office job and used his savings to set up a small workshop in his apartment. His first invention was a new type of solar cell that was 3 times more efficient than anything on the market. He patented it and licensed the technology to a small startup instead of one of the big energy companies. His second invention was a water purification system that required no filters or chemicals. He open-sourced the design, allowing communities worldwide to build their own systems cheaply. By month 4, John had attracted attention. Technology magazines wrote profiles about the mysterious genius who had appeared out of nowhere. Investment offers poured in. John turned down the big corporate money and instead created a foundation to develop and distribute his inventions. Zara stayed with him through it all. Though only John could see and hear her, she became his constant companion and advisor. She seemed fascinated by his approach, the careful way he introduced new technologies, making sure each innovation spread widely before releasing the next. "You're unlike any being I've encountered," she told him one night as they sat on the roof of his new research facility, looking at the stars. "Most would have used their knowledge for personal gain." John shrugged. "What's the point of being the richest person in a dying world? Besides, I never cared about money. I just wanted to build things that matter." "Your strategy is working," Zara admitted. "Global carbon emissions have already decreased by 7% because of your energy systems. Your medical scanners have saved thousands of lives." "It's not enough," John said, looking up at the night sky. "We've barely scratched the surface of what's possible." "Patience, John," Zara cautioned. "Too much change too quickly causes resistance. Some groups already question where your knowledge comes from." John nodded. He'd noticed the increasing scrutiny. Government agencies had begun monitoring his activities. Religious groups questioned whether his inventions were playing God. Corporations whose business models were threatened by his technologies spread misinformation about him. "I know. But we don't have unlimited time. Your knowledge shows that Earth faces multiple crises in the coming decades: climate collapse, resource depletion, possibly even pandemics worse than anything we've seen. We need to accelerate." Before Zara could respond, John's phone rang. It was Maya, his head of security. "John, we have a situation." Maya's voice was tense. "Government vehicles just pulled up outside the main gate. They have a warrant." John stood up. "What kind of warrant?" "Search and seizure. They're claiming national security concerns. Something about unauthorized technology transfer from foreign powers." "Stall them," John said. "I'll be right down." He ended the call and turned to Zara. "It's happening sooner than we expected." Zara's expression was grim. "They fear what they don't understand. This pattern has repeated on countless worlds. We need to protect the Phase 2 technologies," John said, heading for the stairs. "They're not ready for those yet." "John," Zara called after him. "It may be time to consider your third wish." He paused at the door. "I've known what my final wish would be since the moment I met you." Zara floated closer to him, her eyes searching his face. "What do you mean?" John heard shouting from downstairs. The sound of doors being forced open. "They're inside the building," he said urgently. "You must make your final wish now, before it's too late." John smiled confidently. "I've known what my final wish would be since the moment I met you." The sound of boots pounding up the stairs echoed through the building. John faced Zara, his expression calm despite the chaos erupting around them. "My final wish," he said clearly, "is for you to be free." Zara froze, her luminescent form flickering. "What?" "I wish for you to be free from your vessel, free from your duty as a fulfillment specialist. Free to choose your own path." Zara's eyes widened. "John, you don't understand what you're asking. My existence is bound to the vessel. Without it." "That's not true," John interrupted. "The knowledge you gave me included information about your kind. Your consciousness isn't actually trapped, it's linked to the vessel by choice, by programming you accepted thousands of years ago. The door to the roof burst open. 4 men in tactical gear rushed out, weapons raised. John Miller, one shouted. On the ground now. Hands where we can see them. John ignored them, keeping his eyes on Zara. Make your choice. Be free. Zara looked from John to the armed men, who were advancing slowly, unable to see her. Final warning, the lead agent called. On the ground or we will use force. Zara's form began to glow brighter. Very well. I accept your wish. A blinding flash of blue light engulfed the rooftop. The agent stumbled backward, shielding their eyes. When the light faded, Zara stood beside John, but changed. Her body was solid now, no longer translucent. Her skin still had a faint blue glow, but she looked almost human. More importantly, the agents could now see her. What the lead agent raised his weapon again, now pointing it between John and Zara. Who are you? How did you get here? Zara stepped forward, raising her hand. A pulse of energy shot from her palm, freezing the 4 men in place. They're unharmed, she told John. Just temporarily paralyzed. We should leave quickly. The vessel, John began, is no longer needed. Zara held out her hand, where a small glowing sphere of energy hovered above her palm. My link to it is broken. My consciousness is fully independent now. And your powers? Diminished, but still considerable. She gestured toward the door. We have approximately 3 minutes before they regain movement. John nodded and followed her downstairs. More agents were scattered throughout the building, all frozen in place like statues. They reached John's private lab, where he quickly accessed his computer. Initiating Protocol Omega, he said as his fingers flew across the keyboard. All research data is being encrypted and distributed to secure servers worldwide. The physical prototypes? Zara asked. John opened a hidden panel in the wall, revealing a small metal briefcase. The most important ones are here. The rest can be rebuilt. Zara placed her hand on the wall. Her palm glowed, and a section of the concrete rippled like water. This way, she said, stepping through the newly created opening. John grabbed the briefcase and followed her through what appeared to be a portal. They emerged in a forest clearing miles from the facility. That's a useful trick, John said, catching his breath. Short-range matter displacement, Zara explained. It will be hours before they track us. John set down the briefcase and turned to face her. Are you okay? I mean, with being free. Zara looked down at her hands, flexing her fingers. It's strange. For millennia, my purpose was defined by the vessel, by granting wishes. Now. She looked up at him. Now I must define my own purpose. I'm sorry if I forced this on you, John said quietly. I just couldn't bear the thought of you returning to that existence, bound to fulfill the selfish desires of beings who never appreciated what you really are. And what am I, John Miller? Her violet eyes studied him intently. A person. A brilliant, ancient, kind person who deserves to live her own life. Zara was silent for a long moment. No client has ever used their final wish for someone else's benefit. Not once in all my years of service. Well, it wasn't completely selfless, John admitted with a small smile. I was hoping you might stick around. Together, we could do so much more for humanity than I could alone. Zara stepped closer to him. When I transferred knowledge to you, a connection formed between us. I saw your mind, your heart. Your capacity for compassion is unusual for your species. Not really, John said. Humans can be pretty amazing when given the chance. Perhaps. Zara looked up at the darkening sky. My people will notice my absence eventually. They monitor all fulfillment specialists. Will they come for you? Eventually. But not for some time. My last check-in isn't scheduled for another decade. John's eyes widened. A decade? That's how often they check on you. My people have a different relationship with time than humans. A decade is like. She thought for a moment. Like a long weekend to you. John laughed. Well then, we have work to do before your long weekend is over. Over the next 5 years, John and Zara moved frequently, staying one step ahead of government agencies. Working from hidden locations, they gradually released more advanced technology into the world, clean energy systems, advanced medicine, sustainable agriculture methods. They carefully avoided military applications, focusing instead on technologies that improved life for ordinary people. They built a network of trusted scientists and engineers who helped refine and distribute their innovations. Gradually, the world began to change. Carbon emissions declined. Food became more abundant. Diseases that had plagued humanity for centuries became treatable. The energy economy transformed. Not everyone welcomed these changes. Corporations that profited from the old ways fought back with propaganda and legal challenges. Some religious groups declared John and Zara to be demonic influences. Several governments classified them as threats to national security. But for every opponent, they gained 100 supporters. Ordinary people whose lives had been improved became their strongest advocates. It's working, John said one evening as they sat on the balcony of their current hideout, a small apartment overlooking the Mediterranean Sea. Slower than I'd hoped, but it's working. Yes, Zara agreed. Though your species is remarkably resistant to change. We're afraid of what we don't understand. John took her hand. You know, you never told me if you regret accepting my wish. Zara turned to him, her violet eyes reflecting the sunset. How could I regret freedom? For the first time in thousands of years, I make my own choices. I experience life directly, not through the filter of my duty. And when your people come looking for you, we'll face that together. She looked up at the first stars appearing in the twilight sky. Besides, I've been thinking about that. My civilization abandoned direct interaction with younger species because we feared causing harm. But perhaps isolation isn't the answer either. What are you suggesting? Perhaps it's time for a more open exchange. Not wishes granted from behind the veil of magic, but honest communication between civilizations. John smiled. First contact. Real first contact. Yes. But not yet. Zara leaned against him. Your world needs time to prepare. To mature. How long? A generation, perhaps. Long enough for the technologies we've introduced to become integrated into your society. Long enough for the idea of other intelligent life to become less frightening. John nodded slowly. A generation. I can work with that. There's something else, Zara said. Something I never told you about your second wish. What's that? The enhancements I made to your body. They didn't just improve your mind and health. They extended your lifespan. Significantly. John turned to look at her. How significantly? Barring accidents, you should live at least 300 of your Earth years. John was silent as he processed this information. So I'll be around to see first contact. Yes. We both will. Zara gestured toward the stars. There's so much more out there, John. So many worlds, so many civilizations. Some far older than mine, some younger than yours. All part of a greater community that Earth will someday join. And we get to help make that happen, John said, squeezing her hand. Zara smiled. Yes. No longer genie and master, but partners. Equals. So what happens now? John asked. The genie smiled. Now we write our own story. No wishes, no masters. Just two beings choosing their own path. And the rest of your kind? Will they come looking for you? Eventually. But by then, humanity will be ready to meet them. Together they looked up at the night sky, where countless stars twinkled with possibility. What had begun with a curious purchase in an antique shop would end with humanity's welcome into a galactic community. And all because one human had wished not for power or wealth, but for understanding. The universe, it seemed, rewarded those who asked the right questions.